Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here. And just a reminder, if you're watching this show live, you can send us messages and questions if you like. So feel free to do that. So I am so excited. We have Mary Meduna-Gross as my guest. Again, I don't even know how many times we've chatted together.
This has got to be at least 3, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And I was just thinking about it as we were listening to the intro. I'm thinking, I wonder what these my first ones would have sounded like. I'm sure I was way in my head. And I'm going to check that out after this show, see how see what happens here and see if I can tell how I've grown since then.
That's good. And let me know if you want me to delete them from my website.
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, it's all good. It's all done in the effort of growth. And I've really learned just to embrace the whole process, yes. Even when it feels really uncomfortable and ugly and all of that, I've just learned to stay with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That's a great attitude. Well, anyway, let me introduce Mary to everyone. Dr. Mary Meduna-Gross is the founder of PlenaVita. Am I pronouncing that right?
PlenaVita means fully alive in Latin.
I was going to ask you what it meant.
Yeah.
That's great. And she is also the creator of the energy alignment method, which I'm sure she'll talk about a little bit, which helps high performers shift from burnout and overdrive to inner clarity and sustainable success, which sounds really wonderful and important. She has a background in mental health counseling, leadership, and neurofeedback. And what is exciting to me about Mary is that she bridges science and spirituality to guide transformational self-leadership, which is really what it's about. She's passionate about helping others move beyond survival mode, which us humans have a tendency to do, and lead in alignment with their true inner wisdom and vision. Right. So again, welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
But for those of you that haven't met you, I'd love for you to tell us your story. How did you get started in this? What led you to all this?
A lot of pain. That's the short version of the story. Yes, I was just definitely in a lot of pain. I knew I was in pain as a child, although I couldn't label it. I couldn't name it. I just experienced it. And that experience, without the label, without understanding it, converted into beliefs about myself that just aren't very helpful, not very lively, right? That I can't, that I shouldn't. Like just be as small and insignificant as possible is really what I learned from that whole experience. And so I found it interesting that as I was going into thinking about college, right? A high school graduation is coming along. I haven't really applied myself at all. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing, right? But I recognized that some of my classmates didn't learn as easily as I did. And I thought I could probably change that. I could learn to teach anybody because I believed I didn't like to see my classmates who didn't learn in the same way I did get scooted off to the side of the room. I was like, why? There's room for everybody here. And so that just made sense to me. And so I, again, very logically, I chose special education as my career path at that time. And as I started in my undergrad programs, I knew very early on, I was going to stay in the classroom for very long. I wanted to be a leader, because what I wanted to do as a teacher, right, is to help bring out the best in all of my students. And then I thought, well, I don't want this just to happen in my classroom. I want this to happen in the whole school. And then, wow, well, what about the whole district? And so that kind of vision really kept me moving into the leadership roles, continuing my education. I had to get all the way to the top just because I had to be enough, right? And it wasn't enough. I remember the conversation that pushed me out of this experience was from my superintendent, who I know cared about me a great deal, but didn't know how to help me. And so he pulls me into his office and says, look, Mary, you're doing the right things. If I were in your shoes, I'd be doing exactly what you're doing. But what you're doing is not working. So you have to fix this or you have to go.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that's a career. I just bought a condo downtown Chicago with my then husband at the time. Like, oh my God, like this panic sunk in, of course. But it was very interesting to observe myself, because I didn't get sucked into that panic, which looking back doesn't make any sense, but thankfully I didn't. I remember coming back to my office and then asking myself for the first time how I was contributing to the chaos that was happening in the organization. And what I realized was that I was hired, I legitimately was hired to come in and update our system so that we were more compliant, regulation-wise, as well as better outcomes for students, right? So I was hired to come in and do this, which I then saw myself as the fixer, which means that the district, the system, needed to be fixed. So that to me was just at the crux of, well, no wonder it's hard for people to trust me, because I'm trying to fix them. I don't want to be fixed. I'm oppositional defiant at the core. I wouldn't put up with anybody trying to fix me either. And then I thought, well, but of course my intentions were good. Like, this is who I want to be. And I want to be this leader that brings out the best in everyone. And I'm missing the boat in such a big way. And yet I have the credentials, I have the experience, I'm doing the right things. How is this not adding up? And so that afternoon I just said, okay, it's time for me to become the coach that I wish that I'd had. And this is some time ago, right? Probably 14 years ago now, when coaching was just getting started. I had a background I have a master's degree in counseling, but I saw coaching as something different. Counseling is trying to fix something that's broken. I don't like that. Coaching for me, though, was, let's take something that's already operational, it's already functional, let's enhance it, let's make it better. And so that's what really coaching was all about for me. And so I thought, oh, great, I have the answer. This is what I'm going to do. But in the years since then, with every course that I've taken, with everything, I've had to address my own limitations, my own, this core belief from me growing up that I'm insignificant, that I don't matter. That's a lot to overcome. And if you believe at your core that you're insignificant, good luck starting a business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is not compatible. And so building this business not only has helped me help other people, but it's at the core, it's helped me help myself. And now I'm at a place where when I talk about coaching, I can honestly say, yeah, I've been there. I've done that. I know where you are, and I can help you move out of it because I have. Now, that doesn't mean I've arrived anywhere. That's not what I want people to hear, but I know the system. I now know how to work this system, and I can help others work it as well.
So how did you get past those notions about yourself? Was it just experiential, or how did that?
Two things. Yeah, two things. One is somehow stumbling on self-awareness as a key practice. Moving out of the experience and becoming the observer. I think Untethered Soul was probably my introduction to this possibility that I could step out of my own experience and observe it as a third party, which now tells me I can have two different experiences. I can be in the drama, or I can observe the drama. And they're very different experiences. My nervous system responds very differently from those two perspectives. I remember my mom has had terminal cancer for 12 years.
Wow.
So whenever she gets sick, we get nervous, we get scared. And last April, I remember she had gotten pneumonia again. And we were all sure, like, this is it. This is going to be the end. And I remember thinking, having this two-sided experience. When I was thinking about what I was losing, the grief was just overwhelming. But when I would shift into this observer role and think about what I believe is in store for my mother when she passes on, I can't wait for that to happen for her. Right. And so that for me, that was just one of those anchoring experiences about how important these shifts are, being in the experience versus observing the experience.
Wow. So, but what if you're not able to transfer into that other way of experiencing something? What if you get so caught up in the drama and the sadness and the loss and the grief?
Yeah. Well, and there is a lot, right? I can speak to that from experience. And that's really where a guide, whether it's a coach or a therapist or somebody who can help hold that space for you, because you don't trust yourself, right? And so one of my first practices, techniques that I was using was hypnotherapy. And I love hypnotherapy because the way that I see hypnotherapy is it is that therapist that is holding that space for you. You are safe. Nothing here is going to hurt you. Go ahead and have your experience all of these emotional waves. I remember my first hypnotic experience. It was probably 2.5 hours long. And for me, it was exploring the grief that I had from my birth. I was adopted at birth. And during that 2.5 hours, I just had wave after wave after wave of grief. And if I didn't have that therapist sitting in that room with me, I would have quit. I would have given up on it. Like, I know this is too much. I can't experience this. Let's just shove that right back down where it was. It's fine. Put it out of sight, out of mind. But because she was there and because I felt supported, I gave myself permission to allow all of this grief to come to the surface so that it could dissipate. And I literally remember sitting up afterwards and I said, oh my God, I swear to God, every cell in my body is reorganizing itself right now. I was really spacey in my head. My whole body felt different because all of a sudden I have let go of layers and layers and layers of very primal grief. So that was my first experience. That's still pretty painful, right? There's a lot to go through. There's value in that. And now I also offer neurofeedback services that gets to the same core without having to relive or to experience that energy moving through us. It's a little bit different. I don't think it's I think the whole package requires both. But what I now offer to my busy executives and CEOs is let's do the neurofeedback first. It's easy. You don't have to tell a single story. You don't even have to participate. You just have to show up, let me hook you up, and let the system do the rest. You can continue to work during your session if you want to. We can chat if you want to, whatever. But let's just get your nervous system in a better space. And so what I find is that when our nervous system is in this safer space now it's safer for us to look into these habits that we have about ourselves and what these habits say about what we believe about ourselves, so that I can now honestly look at myself and say, wow, I can't believe I would believe that about myself, but I do. I know that I do because I feel it. But because I feel safe in my body, now it's okay for me to explore that. Whatever emotions come up, I'm okay now. I know that they're not going to sweep me off my feet. And if they do, if it does feel that big, I also have a lot of people that I can call on and say, hey, I just need you to hold space for me while I have this experience.
For those people that aren't super familiar with neurofeedback, give us a core understanding of it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of neurofeedback out there, and I'm going to zero in on one particular kind of neurofeedback that's known. The brand name is Neuro-Optimal neurofeedback, and this brand is significantly different than all of the other neurofeedback brands because it operates differently. All of the other neurofeedback systems do some form of, let's map the brain, the neurofeedback activity. Let's see what's happening. Let's see how we want it to be different. And then let's create an intervention that's going to reshape how our nervous system works. And so it's very diagnostic. It's got an intervention, and it attempts to shape our body externally or shape our system externally. Neuro-optimal neurofeedback is a dynamical system, meaning that it's just all it's doing is listening to your neuroactivity in real time. And because of the mathematical algorithms that I know nothing about, that the system then senses when your neuroactivity is going to go high or go low. I think about it like the rumble bars on a highway. You know, those when you drive off the road, you get that really loud noise that says, hey, you're about to drive off the road.
Yeah.
So in the neurofeedback, we're listening to music, and every time the shift, whether high or low, is predicted or anticipated, then you're going to get a little glitch in the music. Sometimes, most of the time, you don't even hear the glitches. They're so subtle. You don't consciously hear it, but your nervous system hears it. Other times, there have been gaps so long that I thought I broke the system. Like, when is this coming back online? So all that. So what that does then is all of these little clicks in the music are the rumble bars on the highway. And so it's just telling your nervous system, here's the edges of the road. If you need to run off the road, go ahead and run off the road. But are you running off the road because you need to, or because this is a habit? And so with continuous practice, then the nervous system learns where that middle of the road is, where the easy path is, and then shapes itself to that. We're not telling the nervous system what to do. It already knows what to do. We just tell it what it is currently doing, and then let it decide how it needs to adapt to be more efficient.
Okay, that's a great explanation. I never heard it that way. That's great.
Well, there's not a lot of this. Neuro-optimal has a smaller segment of the marketplace when it comes to neurofeedback, because honestly, I think one of the biggest things that make it not as appealing is because there isn't a pre-test. I don't get to show my clients, oh, here's how your brain is operating now. And then after so many sessions, oh, here's how your brain is operating now. I don't have that concrete evidence. We're just trusting that the body knows what to do and that it does what it needs to do. So somebody could come to me, I'm not sleeping very well, right? I can't sleep. I know I'm in high stress. I can't sleep. That's my primary complaint. And so we do neurofeedback, and maybe it may take up to 4 to 5 sessions before sleep is actually addressed, or you notice any changes in sleep, because there might have been other things that needed to happen first in your system before you could get to sleep. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so what we find after, this, we've tens of thousands of sessions, what we find is that most clients tend to not experience too many results until after their 5th session. And then on the other side, most clients feel satisfactory resolution, let's say it was sleep, like I had mentioned before, within 20 sessions. So this isn't a lifelong thing that you have to commit to neurofeedback. This is a reset. And once our nervous system is reset, then it's going to operate that way unless it gets bounced out, because of an illness or trauma or anything else. It would bounce us out. And so updates I continue to do this on a regular basis because I have chronic pain, chronic inflammation in my body. And that really peaked for me about a year ago. I was doing neurofeedback. I was offering neurofeedback already to my clients, but I wasn't practicing it so much. It was really about other people. But when I kind of hit my low, because not only physically was I feeling bad, but it also became the most depressive experience that I've ever had. And that scared me because I've never gotten to that point where I was really asking myself, like, what's the point? And so I started doing the neurofeedback. I actually called it back from one of my clients and said, look, I need to start using this for myself. And I didn't think about it. Like, I didn't have a plan, like, okay, this is when I'm going to do it, how I'm going to do it. I just started using it. And I'm let's jump off the deep end of the pool kind of a person. Like, I don't just try it a little bit. I try it like full on. And so I found myself doing it every day. And I didn't know the whole 5-day thing or 5-session thing. Literally within 4 days, I felt like I was waking up out of a fog. Like, where have I been? Who have I been? How did I get here? And then all of a sudden, everything that I was struggling with my business and what I wanted to do, and it just became easy. It became absolutely easy. And so what I've really learned from this whole experience is the importance of having this nervous system reset. And I don't think that coaching or counseling resets our nervous system. That's more in the head kind of space that I think actually keeps us in a state of chronic stress. And so it's really about, how do we give ourselves that time, that space, that permission to allow our nervous systems to relax and recalibrate. That's hard to do in especially in days like this, right? When we're in a period of heightened global unrest on so many levels. Take it out here, let alone what's going on within us, right? We all have some sort of belief that we've picked up early in childhood and probably don't even know that we're living with it, that's holding us back. And so we all have these things. It's just a matter of having the desire, the desire to live fully. And that's really what drove me, because I knew I was miserable. I knew I was miserable as a teen, and all I wanted was to be fully alive. And so it's taken me a long time to figure this out. So I'm hoping now that, because like I said, I get the system now. I've figured that out. Now I can help other people apply this and learn it for themselves as well.
So one more question about neurofeedback. Excuse me. How does that, so if you have a programmed belief about yourself, for example,
yeah,
does neurofeedback just naturally neutralize that in some way, just by shifting your neurology?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I think that our beliefs in our bodies are so tightly connected, right? What I believe about myself and how my nervous system reacts and how my physical body reacts is all aligned. And so I think that it's one of these things where we can shift our beliefs cognitively. We can coaching and thinking and those kinds of things, or we can shift our bodies to operate more efficiently, which then it's going to just let go of the beliefs that are off the road, because now it's driving on the road. It's not getting into the ditch where these other beliefs live. So that's why, I think that neurofeedback is good to have update, we'll come back for updates every now and then, but ultimately you're driving on the road. And if those limiting beliefs are now in the ditch, they're out of your way, they're out of your way. They don't really exist unless you drive off the road again.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So the focus today, and we've kind of been leading up to this, is on leadership. We're talking about people that have chosen to be in a leadership position. It doesn't necessarily have to mean just in business. It could be leading your family, or leading your friends, or leading your children, or your dogs, or whatever it is. Yeah. So I'd love for you to define for everybody, what is it that you define as a, quote, good leader? What qualities would they have?
Well, I would say a good leader is someone who knows themselves.
Yes.
Because, and I think when I say know myself, it's that differentiator between I'm in my experience or I'm the observer of my experience. Because when we're just in our experience, we can't see anything else outside of us, right? And so I think a good leader has this capacity to take that 30,000 foot view, not only for the organization or the team or whatever it is that they're leading, but for themselves as well. So that's what I think at the core, leadership is about how I lead myself.
Mhm.
because the way I lead myself is how I'm going to lead everything else that I do in my life. And so if I'm leading myself in a way that's very constrained, I'm very much in control, very self-critical, very self-judgmental, guess how I'm going to show up for other people?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly the same way. And anyone who believes that they can lead themselves in one way and lead others in another way, they're just fooling themselves. That's just an illusion that we sometimes convince ourselves of so that we don't have to change ourselves. There was a song, I'm not good about pop culture references, but I do remember a song from the 80s about waiting on the world to change. That's the lyric that I remember. And I think that sticks with me in this context because I feel like we're often in these spaces when we're in survival, we're waiting for the world to change for us to be happy. And we're
Right.
trying to control the events and the people and situations in our life so that we'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the kind of control that isn't going to ever lead to happiness.
Mhm.
And you're going to make a whole lot of other people miserable along the way with you because energy is resonant. It's catchy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a standard human notion that something external is going to make us happy and fulfilled and successful. And, and we keep striving for it and it keeps getting further away and we keep getting it. And it's like, ooh, it didn't work.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the key fallacies that we've been conditioned to believe, that whatever you want or need is somewhere outside of you.
Yeah.
So you got to know the right people and have the right timing and be in the right place in order to get that. So of course, we're going to conclude, well, I'm not enough. I don't have this. Right? And so then we start to live by those beliefs.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that first piece, that piece about, is life happening to me or is life happening for me?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so common. I mean, we literally live our lives based on that. Yeah.
It is 100%. And I would argue too that for those of us who are, out of that space, or we can observe that space. In fact, I have a note up here. One of my new newsletters is going to be about, how do I show up? What am I talking about? If I'm not showing up and complaining about something or somebody, what should I be talking about? What could I be talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, and I would just invite the listeners, don't change anything, but I would just observe how what are you talking about? What are the stories that you like to tell people? What are the stories that your friends are telling you? Are these stories of complaint, of victimhood, of struggle? Or are these stories of savoring, of awe, of gratitude, of, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what just happened to me. This is the most amazing thing in the whole world, right? We even try to shy away from some of those people, like, oh my God, what a Pollyanna, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We want to shut those people down, because if that is possible for them, then that would mean that it's possible for us.
Yeah.
And if that's possible for us, then that means I have to make a different choice, which means I can't just sit around and wait for the world to change anymore. I'm going to have to choose something different. And then I think we get stopped because, well, what else am I going to choose? That's how I think comprehensive this conditioning is. I don't know what else I would do. I don't know what else I would say.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah. The old expression, misery loves company.
Absolutely.
There's a part of us that says, I'm miserable and I need you to agree with me and say, oh, you poor thing. And yeah, I understand because I feel the same way. I mean, it gives us some kind of validation and support, and it looks like love, but it isn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not connection. And I've been thinking a lot about love, right? And who we love and how we love. And to me, it's really about connection. I can love somebody or something, but if I really don't have a connection to it, is that love?
Yeah.
I mean, I could really like it. I could really appreciate it. But to me, it's the connection. It's the commitment either to that person or to that movement or that passion. That is the demonstration of love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like we need to take a couple-minute break, and we'll be right back. I'm talking to Mary Meduna-Gross about all kinds of things. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Mary Meduna-Gross, and we're talking about leadership and neurofeedback, all kinds of interesting things here. But what I'd love for you to talk about is the idea about control. I give lectures about the difference between manipulation, control, and empowerment. How would you explain what you mean by like a controlling leader or somebody that's not really confident, but they're really trying to control?
Exactly. I love that. Well, I would start with with a framework that I use to help me kind of understand how am I perceiving the world, right? Going back to that idea that my experience is based on my core beliefs, and my core beliefs then filter out anything that would contradict my core beliefs, and it's going to highlight anything that's going to align with my core beliefs. And this is the energy leadership model that I use. It was developed by Dr. Bruce Schneider. And we have a lovely little assessment that we use called the Energy Leadership Index that kind of shows us under stress, these are the lenses that I tend to fall into. And under normal circumstances, these are the lenses that I tend to operate from. And so if we think about this framework, there's 7 levels altogether, but let's just think below the line and above the line, kind of like conscious leadership's model of above the line and above the line. Below the line is the levels 1 and 2, and 3 to me is the line. So what happens in 1 and 2 is our victim mode. And level 1 is the victim mode that says, it doesn't matter what I do or what you do for me, nothing's going to change for me. Apathetic, learned helplessness, all of that. That's the least of energy. Level 2 is where most of us operate from, and that's the fighter. And the fighter is the one who, again, believes that they already have all the right answers. And so what they have to do then is go out and convince other people that they have the right answers and put their beliefs and systems into place, because according to that person, that's good for everybody. But from that level 1 or level 2, our perception is very narrow. We are literally unaware of most possibilities. This is in level 1 and level 2. This is where our nervous system is always at our service, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. And most of the time, again, in level 2, it's about the fighting. We're going to fight. I believe in my convictions, and I'm going to fight for what I believe in. And we're rewarded for that. High performers, especially in the world of leadership and academics, right? It's about knowing it all. Because if I know it all, that means then that I can control it all. That's what that fighter is all about. Is the fight is fighting with life. It's fighting with life because I want my agenda to be leading this charge, not life's agenda to be leading this charge, because that feels safe to us. Because the alternative to that is what? Surrender. What you want, surrender to somebody who's in this fighting frame of reference feels like suicide. Why would I do that? Like, I'm literally going to die if I surrender. And yet surrender is the way above the line. When we can say, oh my gosh, I don't have to control all of this. I can move into these higher levels above the line. I can move above the line. So level 3 is that personal responsibility, where we start to say, okay, I don't know what I have or haven't been doing that has led up to this, but I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what this means about where I go or how I find next, but I want to find what's next. I want to find my way out of this. And with that intention alone, you start to see the possibilities, right? Because now we've just changed our program enough to allow in other possibilities. And then it's up to us. Are we going to see them? Are we going to grab them? And so when we do, then we can move into these higher levels. And I say higher, and it's easy for us to assume, well, that means better. It certainly is easier, but I also want to just reiterate that there's appropriate time for all of these levels, right? So we're not making any level wrong or any level more right. It just is, it's the full spectrum. But right now, we're not living in the full spectrum. We're living in levels 1, 2, and maybe 3 occasionally. But when we really commit to ourselves at level 3, that self-awareness piece, I really am going to start to tune into myself, look at when I'm triggered, why am I triggered, right? Because we want to say like, oh, my husband did something or said something that triggered me. It's his fault that I'm feeling this way. No, he hit your trigger, but it's your trigger.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your trigger. You can set boundaries, of course, right, with other people, but you still have that trigger. And so level 3 is really about finally really taking responsibility for that. And there's a whole lot of learning that happens in that space. It's messy, it's uncomfortable. This is really where a guide is highly useful to just keep you in that space. Right? Because it would be so easy just to fall back on the other habits, even though it was bringing us a lot of pain. It's a lot easier to do than what we're doing now. And especially when I don't even know where I'm going, right? And for someone who is in this control space, if I don't know where I'm going, why am I even taking the next step? Right? That even doesn't feel safe. And so once we get comfortable with ourselves, we're now starting to come closer to ourselves. We hadn't even realized that all of that fighting that we were doing was really abandoning ourselves for whatever it is external that we were hoping for, wanting to whatever create. And so it's all of this self-abandonment. So at level 3, we start to come closer to ourselves. We start to love ourselves. We start to accept ourselves, forgive ourselves for, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever believed that about myself. I can't believe I ever put myself up for that. That's what's happening a lot at level 3. So now we move into level 4, which is compassion. That's really about you winning. The other person is winning. And honestly, this was the stage or the level that I almost chose not to use this, because for me, putting others first is something that I saw in my entire life. Like I felt like I was always expected to put everybody else first. Abandon yourself, Mary. Abandon your own needs and make sure everybody else is comfortable. And then when everybody else is comfortable, if there's still time, if there's still resources, there's still maybe a little bit left for you. And that's not just me. I think a lot of women, especially in Generation X and maybe even beyond that, but that's a common thing that we were taught. So what I now know is that this compassion, when I can put you first, that means I'm doing that from a space of abundance. I'm putting you first because I have it to give. I'm giving to you because I have it to give. You take that gift, you do with that gift what you want. It's none of my business anymore at that point. It's all for you. The giving that I just described that I was used to is that codependent kind of giving. That's a level 2 behavior. That's a way of controlling somebody, so that, yes, I'll do something for you now, but I'll come back. I'll ask for a favor in return on this. And again, think about how normal that sounds.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we operate. And at some level, it's okay. But when that's our core belief that I can only give to you if you promise to give something back to me, or I'm going to give to you and I'm not going to tell you what I expect back from you. I'm just going to expect that you know what I need and I'm going to expect you to get it and to give it to me. And when you don't give it to me, then I'm going to be all really twisted up about it. And then I'm probably going to have to punish you for that because you didn't do what I asked you to do. That's all level 2 kinds of operations. And just think about it. Those of you who are listening, I know you can relate to this story. You can probably think of something that happened in the last 24 hours that this describes, because that is how conditioned we are for this. But when we can operate from this level 4, I'm given to you because I have it to give, there's nothing holding me back, right? There's less friction above the line. I'm not fighting with life anymore. I'm letting life happen. Level 5 is really kind of one of my where I really would love to live. And that's that win-win. I see possibilities everywhere. And you can't see possibilities everywhere when you're living at level 2. It's just not possible. You don't see it. You don't even believe there are other possibilities because in your mind, you've already figured out what all the possibilities are, and it's a limited number, right? And so we get stuck with living with our own limitations when we could live from this perspective of win-win. Where's the opportunity? How are we all going to win out of this? It brings more possibilities. It brings more resources to the whole conversation. And now all of a sudden, what seemed like something that had control and it's heavy and it's a lot of work, oh my God, this is so easy.
Yeah. A couple of comments. I just have to stick my little political nose in there. The level 2 sounds like a certain person that's in charge of the United States right now. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
To a T. To a T. And what I would say is, this whole experience is what happens to us on an individual level, just on the macro level.
Yeah. Yes.
And so what I see happening is what I think happens with us internally. Things have got to get so uncomfortable that I'm willing to do something different because I'm not willing to live with this uncomfortability anymore. Yeah. And I think that's where we are as a country right now. We're trying to decide, who is it that we're going to be? Who do we really want to be?
Yes, that's it. And the other comment that I'm thinking, and you can certainly add your feedback on this, but it sounds like level 2 is really just covering up level 1. So we're not resolved with all of that stuff on level 1. So we act out on level 2.
Exactly. Because that level 1, that apathy, just feel how weak apathy feels in your body.
Yeah.
And so we resist that. And so we're going to come up stronger, right? And we're going to come out as a fighter.
Look at me.
And we're going to win. It's all about winning. It's about dominating, because then I'm the winner and I'm on top, and that must mean that I get everything that I want.
Yeah. So you talked about level 4. What about higher level?
So level 5 is that win-win. Level 6 is that level where we are really operating from our intuition. Mm-hmm. So another way to think about this whole system is, below the line, it's all thinking. It's all thinking and knowing. Above the line is much more directed by intuition and creativity and experiment and play to see what is possible. We still know stuff, right? I don't have to give up my knowledge because now I'm operating from a different level. That knowledge informs what could be possible. It gives me a place to look even for possibilities. If I didn't have that knowledge, I wouldn't know where even to look. So it's not, I don't have to give up anything. I'm just using that resource in a different way, not as a way to control, but as a way to open up possibilities.
That's very exciting. And what I love about what you're saying is, I'm often a lot of spiritual, I don't want to call it woo-woo land, but
Yeah.
I look at things very spiritually and,
Sure.
Seeing the bigger picture and, energy and all of that stuff. But I'm also very grounded. And what I hear you saying is so grounded, but it's also equally spiritual. It's just such a good balance.
It's a beautiful balance. This whole spectrum, this energy leadership model, I just, it's so beautiful because it helps me recognize where I am, right? Because so it's a way to help me define how I'm seeing the world. And I know something about how I'm seeing the world is going to align with certain emotions. It's going to align with certain behaviors. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. So knowing the whole spectrum, this whole system, now I know that I have options. I may not be able to reach all of those options just yet, but I know they're there, right? So now I have something, I have another possibility. When we're living at level 2 or level 1, we don't even know that there's other possibilities. And so, yeah, this model makes room for everything, right? We got the very masculine energy in these lower survival levels. That's necessary. We're not trying to kill the masculine. We need space for that, but we don't need to live in that space. Yeah. And so now at the above the line levels would be considered to be the more feminine kinds of models. And so when we understand this whole thing together and we have a nervous system that's relaxed and we can take all of this in, we have just given ourselves a roadmap to whatever it is that we want to create.
Yeah. And the world is getting there.
We are. Yeah, just think about it, right? I mean, my conversation with my superintendent, I don't know, 14, 15 years ago, I was reading a lot of these kinds of books. Like I started Conversations with God, I think was my first book back in the 93, probably. Yeah. And I studied, I read all of this my entire life. But it wasn't until I got into the coaching that I realized, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about this stuff. I'm just knowing this stuff. I'm not actually doing it. Yeah. I'm not living by this. I can tell other people how they're not living by it. But I wasn't living by it either. And so it wasn't until I really applied it to myself, and that grace to myself, that the shifts started happening.
Yes. Yay. Yay. Yeah.
And it's a constant reminder. I've got a new business partner, a new space here where I'll be offering neurofeedback. And so we're planning our launch party. And a couple of times yesterday in this conversation, she said, well, maybe we'll just kind of just see how this plays out. And that was her way of saying to me, Mary, you're over-structuring this, you're over-controlling this, right? So it's still my habit, but now that I'm aware of it, and when I have other people around me who can give me some gentle nudges, I can acknowledge it and I can let it go. And I said to her, I gave her permission to please nudge me every time she feels like I'm attempting to control something, because that's not where either of us want to be, because that's not where the answers are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which leads me to another question. What happens when leaders come from that level 1 or 2? I mean, what is the result of that, or what is the outcome?
I'll tell you what other people were saying about me when I was leading from level 1 and level 2. That I was intimidating, that I was a know-it-all, that I was a control freak, which I'm like, who are you even talking about? That can't be me. I would never do that. But that's survival. That's living in survival. All of those behaviors are survival living. And so when leaders show up in survival mode to lead other people, they're by nature going to create conditions that require everyone else to also be in survival mode. And so you're automatically putting a lid on what your team is capable of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're just infighting with one another. And then you're going to wonder, why are we struggling so much with this? Why are we fighting so much with this? Go back to the leader. They're fighting with themselves. They're struggling with themselves. Resolve that, and the team is going to be able to pick it up and come back together.
All those mirrors. Yep.
Exactly.
And it's not only in groups, it's with relationships too. It's
100%. Right. I realize too, like in my own personal relationships, again, I think I'm showing up as the connector and the one who's aware and all of this. And yet I can also see that I've got my own defense mechanisms, my own shutdown modes when I need space. And if I'm not communicating that to my partner, whether it's my husband or someone that I'm working with, then they don't know how to receive that information.
Yeah. Somebody just sent us a
primitive part of the brain, survival. Yes.
Part of the brain, survival. That's what it is.
That's what it is. And we're capable of more, but we're not conditioned for more. We're conditioned for survival. Stay in survival mode, because the more that we're in survival mode, the more fearful we are, the easier we are to control.
Yeah. So I was just thinking as you're talking, when I got onto my purposeful path, shall we say, and I knew it was what I was supposed to be doing. I absolutely knew it. I found that I was never tired. I was never burned out. People would say to me, well, how are you doing that? How can you possibly do all the things you're doing? And it never even entered my mind that it would be exhausting. I was always energized. So what do you find when people are really doing what they're supposed to be doing? Is there even a threat of burnout that goes on?
I think the only time that burnout or chronic stress threatens us is when we shift into survival mode. So, even when I would say both of us, right, are on this purpose path. We know where we're going. We are confident that we're on the right path.
Yeah.
But I won't speak for you. I'll speak for myself. That in that moment, or what I'm looking at today, like, oh, this feels messy. I don't know where this is going. I don't know how this is going to be resolved. Yeah. And so we continually have to continue to make these decisions. Am I going to try to control this, or am I going to just keep trusting my intuition and following and taking the next step, and then saying what needs to happen next, and then taking that next step, what needs to happen next, take that next step. As a leader, in my leadership days, that would never have been good enough for me. I needed the whole map. Where are we now? Where is it we want to go? And let's map up the whole thing right now on the front end. That just seemed to make sense to me. But what I know now is have your vision, know where it is you want to go, but trust that the universe is playing along with you on this. And so there might be some sharp turns that you don't see coming. There might be some gifts laying along the side of the road that you didn't even know to look for. So keep your eyes open for those kinds of things. Because when we're operating from these more feminine styles of perceiving the world, we are able to align with what wants to happen. And so now we're not we're not fighting life. Like I had said before, when we're in level 2, we're co-creating with it. And there is nothing in my mind, there's nothing more exhilarating than to feel co-creation with somebody else or even with the universe. Yeah. It feels magical. Like this is not even possible. Like, how did this even happen? I'm just finding my space. I'd been to some other spaces. I wasn't super happy with it, but I kind of didn't think I had any options. And I started walking around the neighborhood with a different route with my dog. And there's a cafe that I used to love that shut down more than 10 years ago. And I love this space. It's got a little bit of outside space. And so I started walking. When I walked past it, I would say, universe, I want this space or something better. That's what I want for my business. Yeah. Within 2 weeks, I found a space that's literally around the corner from my house that aligns perfectly with what I want to do, who I want to be with, all of those things. And so I use that as evidence for myself that I don't have to know. Like if I would have gone to that cafe, and talked to a realtor, I probably would have spent way more money than I needed to. I would have had to fix it up. I would have had to do a whole lot of things with it. When I say, or something better, the universe says, around the corner. Have you even looked at that yet? Right? It's been there for 2 years.
That's amazing. That's
right.
great.
So playing with the universe in that intuition from that level 6 kind of level, no wonder we're not tired, because everything is just coming to us. Whatever we need, it's right there.
Yes. So we have 1 minute till we have to leave. So tell us how to find you. Yeah. Tell us anything you need, any contact information, etc.
Perfect. The only social media that I play around on is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My website is at PlenaVitaShift.com. And my email is at that same address. So Mary@PlenaVitaShift. So I would love to hear from anyone, whether it's on LinkedIn or email, maybe something resonated with you. Like, yeah, that was really it. Or Mary, what were you thinking? I love both. So I would love to hear from the listeners.
Great. Thank you so much, Mary. I look forward to the next chat we have.
I can't wait.
Yeah. And just to remind everybody, follow me on my Substack. It's called Royce's Ramblings. And I think I mentioned last time that I'm offering a new service called Elevated Sessions with Royce. And I'm very excited about that. So I'll see you all next week. And again, thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
You too. You too. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Thanks.